SaaS Therapy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special holiday edition of SaaS Therapy, the show where we help you save your most important business relationships, your customers. My name is Todd Kirk. I am joined by Santa's little helper today, Casey Trujillo. Casey,
So
welcome.
true. Well, Todd, I mean, we're here. I cannot believe we're saying the end of 2024, the end of season 3. It is a Christmas miracle that we made it this far.
It's true. We've been doing this show now for an entire year. Can you believe that, Casey? That blows me away. And for all of you who have been with us throughout this journey, we've really enjoyed having you. Thank you for listening in every week. It's such a fun time. You know, one of the things that we really love to do after we get through a season, which is about 20 or so episodes, we like to go back and think through what were some of the big takeaways that we had, the different audiences that came to the show. And as a special holiday treat, Casey is going to sing it all to Jingle Bells, right? The whole entire conversation today will be Casey singing it,
which would be amazing, and we'd go viral. But let's not do that. I don't know if we're ready for everything, but Todd,
yes, that'll be the end of season 6. You know,
yeah, let's get ready for that one. Yeah, I think for me to get us started, we did something different this year. We had a live audience where we had a bunch of different local leaders here in Utah. So Silicon Slopes is what they call it here in Utah. They have an amazing little studio that we were able to record in front of a live audience. And one of the people there was Doug Norton. He's Vice President of Customer Success at Bill.com. His insight is stuck with me, not just in work, but at home. And so we were talking about, okay, you need to do something new, because obviously, you know, technology never rests. Our customer experience never rests. Like, we're always looking to improve and to iterate on that. And so the question I asked him was, okay, so you've done something that you're like, okay, we're going to test this model out. The theory is this, we're going to test this model out. I said, when do you give up? When do you actually say, you know what, this isn't working? Because let's all be honest, if we put a pilot together, we expect the pilot to work, because it takes a lot of energy to. I gave him the example of, I'm 5'8", I've been trying to dunk in my 40s, and I'm coming to a point where I just need to give up. Like, I've tried everything, but I think age is not going to let me do it. And it just is what it is, right? So Doug said this. He goes, well, first of all, you got to decide yourself, is this a one-way door or a two-way door? And I was like, oh, you got to tell me, because that just sounded cool, right? I was like, what is a one-way door? And a one-way door is what we were just talking about, Todd. Like, I'm going to pilot this because I'm pretty positive this is working, and then we're going to move to full rollout. Like, it's really just, I'm opening the door and I'm shutting the door. Even though I'm saying there's a proof of concept or a pilot stage, I know you know that we're really going to move this out. Then he said, there's two-way doors. And two-way doors, everyone knows that we could go back. And if you set that expectation right, and he was talking with his customer success team, is, hey, we're going to test this new way to do a QBR. We're going to test it over this next quarter, and we're going to get feedback, and we're going to decide if this is a better approach, and here's how we're going to measure that. But everyone knows going in, I could go back through that door and we could go back to what we're doing. And that's how you limit frustration, is if people know at the beginning, is this a one-way or a two-way? And I was like, oh, that is just brilliant. That is just fantastic.
Yeah, and that was one of the few episodes that I didn't get to participate in, and I was really sad that I wasn't there in that conversation, because I think a lot of the times, for me anyway, we run into these scenarios where we feel like, the customer feels like, especially, that if they don't get success on the first run, then
Amen.
It wasn't worth it at all.
Right.
And you know, there's always this perception of, like, when you're buying a SaaS product, especially as a customer, are you buying a solution, or are you buying a tool that helps you get your own solution? And I think that's like a really minor distinction, but it's enough that if you buy, like, if you're buying a solution, then you bought a one-way door, because if you go through and it fails, then you look at it as it was a poor purchase. But if you look at it as a tool that guides you to the solution, you're like, well, maybe I just didn't use the tool properly, and I could go back and then reevaluate how I look at it moving forward. So But that leads me into one of the thought that immediately came to my mind. So I mean, if you think about it, how many we had 20 episodes this season, and we probably interviewed 10 to 12 different guests as part of that conversation. And one of the things that really sticks out to me is we had a conversation with Maria Manning Chapman, who is the vice president of education services at TSIA. And speaking of one-way and two-way doors, do you remember what she told us about the Winchester Mystery House in
Oh my
California?
gosh, Todd. This was my favorite. And again, every guest is amazing that we have on. Thank you so much. And we appreciate people reaching out to us saying, hey, would love to be on your show. Here's my insight. But Marie Manning Chapman Insight is probably been the most listened to that I went back to and said, oh my gosh, I got to hear how she says it again. So Todd, tell everyone about it.
Yeah. So okay. So there's a woman in California named Sarah Winchester, and there's a very famous place called the Winchester Mansion. It's in San Jose, California. So anytime you go to the Bay Area, next time you can go check this place out. But the Winchester Mansion, it was built over 40 years by this woman. And it's a giant labyrinth that has 160 bedrooms, 40 different staircases,
It's
13
nuts.
bathrooms, 47 fireplaces. Okay. And many believe that she built it to confuse and trap evil spirits that were haunting her. And there's other theories around like something about some promises to protect her from curses when her husband died and stuff. There's all kinds of weird theories out there. But basically, this house is crazy. It's like this huge, giant labyrinth of stuff. And so talking about one-way doors and two-way doors, right, is like go through a door and get lost in this giant labyrinth of a house. But one of the things that she mentioned is that part of the reason that it's so strange is she had this belief that she had to keep building and building and building and adding on and adding on and adding on throughout the course of her life. And she used that as an analogy for why people hate learning management systems, because learning management systems were originally built as a system of record for employees to track personal development of their
Right.
employees.
Right.
And then when that got applied into customer education, the LMS just brought all that baggage with it and then started bolting on all of these weird things to try to make it work. So instead of having a purpose-built mansion solution, most LMSs kind of feel like the Winchester Mystery House, which is just this giant labyrinth of stuff. A lot of it leads to nowhere and doesn't help you get where you want to be. And I loved that conversation simply because I think in addition to us being smarter about helping position the relationship with the customer and give your team resources to make them feel like they can come in and out of a door rather than, leading to a dead end. We need to be smarter about thinking through how
Mm.
do we build solutions that feel purpose built rather than
Mm-hmm.
just like, here's a giant smorgasbord of a billion things that you may or may not need that make people feel overwhelmed and lost and frustrated.
And Todd, yeah, I think you said it right. Like in a house, do I need fireplaces? Do I need bedrooms? Do I need stairs? Most likely, yes. But it's the order in which it's constructed that makes all the difference, right? If I said, I mean, we all know the saying, ready, aim, fire. But if I went ready, fire, aim, that sequence makes no sense, right? It's just, it, I felt like when she talked about, okay, let's go back to the basics then. You have an LMS out there. What percent of your total licensed users are actually interacting with that? And from there, what percent of those are actually doing anything different because you're with your product because of that? Like it's great to have a tool, but if the tool doesn't work, why have the tool? So I love that. I think that was a great concept. And Todd, that goes into our next person, which was Janelle Friday. And hers was nothing around customer success, customer education, customer experience, but it was because it was around emotional intelligence. And I think that is probably one of the things that no matter what stage in SaaS you're at, that is a skill set that you can develop. And one of the things that I took away from that is often we make fear-based decisions. I mean, the data has proved out, right? You are, I mean, that's why they came up in sales with the phrase FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt. Get those in your customer's mind, and then they're going to buy because you know what? They don't want to lose something. And it's amazing. I think she mentioned this. I want to give her credit for this, but she had an acronym for FEAR, which was false evidence appearing real.
Mm.
And it's like, how many times do we tell ourselves the story of why this customer didn't buy, or why this customer didn't renew, or why my boss didn't accept my idea? And we go through this whole story and get emotionally charged. And gosh, we're out of here because this just isn't making sense. And my customers just don't understand. But we don't look at just data. We don't just ask ourselves questions of, could the opposite be true? We don't sit back and really get emotionally calm and start to understand what the challenge actually looks like. And so I thought that was a fantastic episode. Emotional intelligence. She runs boot camps that you can subscribe to and be part of. But I think no matter what role you have at a SaaS organization, emotional intelligence is also something we can get better at. So go back, take a listen to that episode. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's so true. In fact, for my friends who do check out the podcast who are not in the SaaS world, because I have a couple, that was the episode that most people that resonated with them the most, because it is the most broadly applicable, regardless of your background and what you do. So worth going back and listening to. Okay, so as a tie into that, one of the other elements that was really I saw as a theme in a couple of different conversations that we had with CX leaders. And so I was really happy that we were able to bring on Andrew Carruthers from Cisco and Dwayne Grant from EverCommerce, both of whom are CX leaders. And one of the big takeaways that I had from that conversation is similar in this idea of emotional intelligence, being able to step back and not letting your emotions control everything that you're doing, being able to be aware of what's actually happening. So often CX, we don't, Andrew had this awesome line that has really stuck with me. And he basically said, a lot of people assume that people don't like digital learning experiences, but the truth is they just don't like your crappy one, the one that you built that's so bad. And we're
Yes.
unwilling to actually look and understand, is it me? Right? Or is it everyone else? And so what the CX professionals that we brought on, both Dwayne and Andrew, had great insights here about how we look at the data to understand what the customer experience really should look like. There was another great conversation we had with Amelia Dianzica from Growth Molecules, and she
Yep.
talked about the customer journey map and how do you map through and look at that journey and understand, and where are the fail points, where are you succeeding, where are you failing, what's preventing you from getting where you ultimately want to go. And if you do that really well, one of the things that Andrew mentioned was the fact that Cisco has been able to move more and more and more of their accounts to a digital first experience, all the way up to pretty large accounts over $100,000 in annual revenue. Whereas in the beginning, they felt like customers paying that much wouldn't want a digital first experience, wouldn't take a digital first experience. And they've managed to put more and more and more of their customers into that scaled approach. And by doing so, it means that their actual CS team can focus a lot more on, higher SLG
Right.
type accounts. They really need to have that really high level touch with. And so it's really fascinating to me to see that too often we have that emotional gut reaction, and we're not able to slow down and look at it with that more controlled view and understand what's really happening.
Yeah. Todd, I call it my apple juice moment I had with them. And so I'll explain that to you.
Apple juice moment.
Yeah, apple
This is the
juice
first
moment.
time I'm excited to
So
hear this, because I
yeah,
have no
yeah,
idea
yeah.
what you're
So
talking about.
so do you remember? You still have some young kids. Mine are all grown up, but I remember we would buy little apple juice boxes, right? And we give it to our kid. And the first time you give that to your child, um, they're struggling with getting the straw and poking it in that thing. I don't know why it's so difficult, but it is. And then finally, you get it poked in. It takes about 30 seconds to a minute to finally get it in there. And then the first thing your child does, right, is they squeeze it, and then the juice flies everywhere, and you got apple juice, sticky stuff everywhere. And I got to a point where we'd still buy them because they were cheap, but I would cut it open and then pour the juice in a sippy cup and then give my child the sippy cup, because it made no sense to me. Like every time it does the same thing. Without fail, you're going to squeeze the box, the juice is going to fly all over you. And then after you get through that, then of course you can, it's fine. Right. Well, I had no idea that the designers of these boxes, they actually have little flaps that you open up, and it's for the child to hold on to the flap so they don't squeeze the middle and the juice doesn't go fly out. They already knew that, but nobody uses the box correctly because it's just not self-explanatory, right? So my apple juice moment when I go, oh my gosh, I could have just flipped those little flaps, gave them to our little kids. They're perfect little handles for little hands. It's genius, right? My apple juice moment was, I can't tell you whether it's a massive organization that's $1 trillion in revenue, an organization that's $20 million in revenue. Andrew represents Cisco. I mean, they do what, $1 billion in revenue, I think he said, right? Or 58 billion or something like that, some crazy number, right?
Many billions.
Yes. Cisco, high tech company. EverCommerce, they do CRM. They have a bunch of portfolio companies, but they're all targeted around pest control, or they're targeted around
Like home and family services kind of thing.
home and family services, right? They said the exact same stuff. So my feedback is open up your flaps, your SaaS organization, your enterprise customers, your medium-sized customers, your small business customers. You know what? They all want the freaking same experience, right? They all want the same things. We treat them differently. We've gotten to this concept that we need to treat this account like this and this account like this. But really, there's a lot of commonalities. And I bet it's more 90-10 than it is what we think is 90-10 in the different direction. So real apple juice moments for me of how to utilize that box correctly. When I heard these different people talking, I'm like, you're all saying the same stuff. And it's different industry, different size organizations, different ARRs, but really 90% of it was the exact same.
It's a really good point. Now I just want to go. I actually have some of those juice boxes at my house right now. So I'm gonna go try with the flaps. In fact, all I could think about while you were doing that, Casey, was the fact that I remember as a kid blowing into the straw to expand the box, and then it creates
Yes.
this pressure differential, and then the juice also streams back out at you without you realizing it. So those
Well,
juice, they're just like they're like a booby trap, man. I
yes, they
never even
are.
thought about it.
And you know what? The funny part is, all of our audience members are going to have this discussion with their family members later on today. So you're welcome. My last episode that I want to highlight was sitting down with Mark Sunday, who was the former CIO of Oracle. And I tell you what, this guy is, what's the Dos Equis person, where he's just like,
Most interesting man in the world.
that is Mark Sunday. If you ever get a chance to sit down,
I love Mark.
He's done Pilates in Egypt pyramid before. He's driven a race car, like the F. What is it? The ones with the
Formula Ones.
Formula Ones. He's driven one of those because, people are always trying to meet someone at Oracle, especially the CIO. So his experiences that he's had with software or vendors that have treated him to these amazing things, it's crazy, his conversations. For his honeymoon, he sailed from like Michigan out to the Caribbean, and he'd never sailboated before. He had practiced a little bit, but he's taking his bride, his wife, barely married, and they just thought, oh, it'd be a cool adventure. Like, that's this person, right? So he's having this conversation, and we asked the question of, okay, so let's say I'm a smaller SaaS vendor, SaaS application, and I'm trying to make my way through Oracle. What's your number one bit of advice? And Mark said, without hesitation, he said, be honest. Be honest of the size of your organization. Be honest about the services you can actually provide. Because guess what? I'm willing, if you have a good fit, I'm willing to invest, but I don't want to invest in a company that's going to go out of business. So if you don't tell me what's actually going on, I can't partner and help you. And he talked about an organization that approached him and said, here's what we can do. And Mark was very interested, but the organization was saying, hey, this is who we are. This is the size of the company. We've never taken on someone like you before. And they actually had transparent conversations to make sure that they were able to support an Oracle. And Oracle wanted the same thing. So sometimes when we're working with large companies that we're trying to get into, we try to maybe touch on the things and highlight on the things that we do really well. And we don't focus on those things where we might need help. We know it's in the back of our mind, but we're not really willing to have a transparent conversation. And I think that goes back to Todd of, again, talking to all the sellers that listen to this podcast, even to customer success managers. Be transparent. If you have a relationship and a partnership, that's where you test it. Vulnerability and honesty tells you the strength of your relationship. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Transparency and honesty lets you know the strength of your relationship. And if you're not willing to do that, you're telling yourself, going back to that emotional intelligence, where that relationship is really at.
I love that. You know, Casey, we didn't talk about this with Mark, but the first thing that came to my mind, have you ever heard of the idea of the pratfall effect? Do you know what that
No,
is?
no, you
So,
always know these awesome theories. So I come
so
up with the juice box theory, and then you come up with something real that you've read about in school. So yeah, tell
whatever,
me that.
man. Yeah, but you can trademark the juice box theory. We'll write,
Oh yes,
that's Casey's next book, The Juice
yes,
Box Theory
the
by
juice
Casey
box theory.
Trujillo. No, so the pratfall effect is this concept. So a pratfall, if you were to go back to like the old vaudeville acts and like Charlie Chaplin and the Three Stooges, that kind of thing. A pratfall is just simply when for comedic relief, somebody falls down in a funny way, right? So that's what a pratfall is generally.
Okay,
And the pratfall effect basically shows that they've done studies that if when someone believes that you are competent and capable and you fall down, like let's say you're giving a lecture and someone thinks you're smart, but then they notice that you got mustard from your hot dog on your lapel while you were speaking. Well, guess what happens if they already like you or think that you're smart or an expert or of interest to them, and they see that you are vulnerable and human and screwed up, it endears them to you way more. So going back to that point about when you are the pratfall effect is that if you are open and honest, it helps you endear you to people more. The double-edged sword of that, though, and this is why I wanted to bring it up, is that if they think you're a moron, if they don't like you, if they think you are a pompous windbag who is narcissistic and screwed up, and then they see that mustard on your lapel, they're going to hate you even more. So what the pratfall effect is it pushes everybody to the extremes, and depending on your existing perception or what the existing perception is of the person for you, if you give them reason to validate that you are terrible, it's going to go really the wrong direction. But if they like you and you screw up in the same way, it can endear them to you more. So I guess what I'm trying to say is
yeah,
I love what Marco's saying, but I also want to caution people that you
yes,
also have to be awesome. Like Mark Sunday loved those people that were small and was willing to invest in them because he also believed in the individuals.
yes,
So
yes,
so often we want to posture ourselves to be, like this wonderful, great thing, but we aren't. But if you really are a capable, wonderful, smart, competent team and you just haven't had that right lucky break yet, then that
right.
can really build that trust. So anyway, that's a really long-winded explanation, but I think that's an important thing to consider. That you should always be open and transparent with people, but if you stink, you're going to stink worse.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great call out, great warning for people to know. Todd, oh my gosh, season 3, what a ride. Thankful to be part of this with you and to our amazing guests. Like when we started this and we had this vision, I never thought we were worried about just getting a guest, let alone having a lineup of guests of I mean the former CIO or Oracle, you kidding me? The COO of Pluralsight. I mean, some heavy hitters that we've had on this, and they're just giving freely to you. So again,
Well,
our ask of you, right, in this new year, if you want to get Todd and I a present, share, like, comment, um, get your teams involved. Let them hear from these experts that just are just dropping
yeah.
nuggets of information.
It's so true. I think if I were to look back at this season, there's kind of been a theme, an unintentional theme, right? We had people from CX, we had people from education, we had Anthony Pieri from who has a marketing background over at Force
Oh,
PMM. Oh my goodness, that's
don't
such a
get me
great
started on
conversation.
him.
Anthony's amazing. Like mega man crush on him. I just think he's the best. But like one of the things that we struggle with so much is looking in the mirror and understanding where we really are, wrestling with where we really are, so we know where to go moving forward. Anthony's conversation was around your messaging and your positioning. Are you willing to look in the mirror and say, man, I'm just providing a bunch of fluff that means nothing and confuses my customer and I should change? when I look at my customer experience and my customer journey, am I willing to look in the mirror and see that what I'm doing isn't right and I need to change? When it comes to emotional intelligence, am I willing to look in the mirror and see if I've managed to make a change? I think what's been so cool to me is that we've talked to people across different industries, different backgrounds, different parts of the SaaS organization, even people who aren't even necessarily super focused just on SaaS. And yet in all of those conversations, the theme has always returned. Are you willing to look in the mirror and then see where your deficits are? And so maybe it's good timing since we're coming towards the end of the year, and 2025 is going to be hopefully a big and exciting one. Don't wait for New Year's to come around to make that resolution. Maybe the time is now to look in the mirror and identify where are the places where I, have those gaps so that I can identify them and get better.
Couldn't agree more. And Todd, with the holidays, you're going to leave with just if I could give a homework assignment to our crew, and it's going on exactly with what you're saying. This is not a religious message, so I'm just going to share an example of the Bible that they have, and we during this holiday season, some people will reenact what they call the Christmas story when Jesus Christ was born. And again, this is not a religious message. I just want to hit on the homework assignment, Todd, that you just gave them. You learn about some individuals that we call the wise men. And we call them wise because we believe that they studied the stars, they studied astronomy, and that's when they knew a new star appeared and they were going to go find this Jesus Christ who was born. But to me, Todd, what made the wise men wise is that star actually led them to Jerusalem, which is about 15 miles away from Bethlehem, where Jesus was actually born. So being wise, they actually went to the wrong area. They actually went to the wrong location. They actually went to a court where there was a king called King Herod. And King Herod, they came in there and said, hey, we're looking for this baby named Jesus, the king of the Jews. Where is he? And it was actually King Herod who told the wise men where Jesus would be born, which was in Bethlehem. And because of that information, they went to their final destination. What made the wise men wise was that they got to a point and then they took advice and they followed it. That's the homework assignment we're giving to you. Be wise, learn, set a goal to listen to this podcast, other podcasts, and go outside of what you think you know and allow yourself to be curious and open, and you will be amazed at where it will lead you. So, Todd, thanks again for an awesome season 3. Thank you to our audience. You guys are just awesome. Thank you so much. We're excited about all the followers that we're gaining every day. Todd was just mentioning that to me before we started. Hey, guess what? We just gained this and this, and this was their people's favorite episode. And I was just on a call, on our company is actually called Brainstorm, and we help companies with digital onboarding, rollouts of new software to get your customers actually adopted. And I was talking to a potential client, and they go, oh my gosh, we've already set our success metrics. We listened to your SaaS Therapy podcast where Maria Manning Chapman was on it, and we took those 4 principles, and that's how we're building out this cost justification to be digitally led. And you're like, that's it. Like, that's it. That's what we were hoping for when we started this, to help you help your customers get the experiences that they're looking for. So Todd, thanks again, man. And for those of you that are listening on YouTube and hearing that he's mute, it was phenomenal what he just said. And you'll have to subscribe to this to find out. It's a hidden egg that we're hiding in this episode.
True. You can read my lips. I said it I was on mute on purpose. No, I thank you. And thanks everyone for all that you do. And we love having you join us every week. So have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. And we will see you in season 4 starting next year. SaaS Therapy is brought to you by Brainstorm, the SaaS platform for SaaS adoption. Learn more at brainstorminc.com.